This program is part of the Cosmic Potato Podcast Network. For more shows like this, visit our website at cosmicpotato.com.
Hey, listen!
All right, you guys, podcast time.
Make it so.
It's me, Mario!
I'm Batman. Strong am I with the Force.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
You're a wizard, Harry.
And welcome to World War G episode 200.
Woohoo! Woo.
I'm Troy.
I'm AJ.
And I'm Colton.
All right, so here we are. Big episode 200. Been hyping it up for weeks,
Yeah.
months, even
Months.
Years.
We are
Not quite.
currently live on Facebook. Hello, everybody.
So if you want to see our beautiful faces and you're just listening, go ahead and rewatch the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know we were just looking at it, and maybe because it's in this mode, it might be a little difficult. You're going to have to maneuver things.
Exactly.
But that's the only way we can currently do it.
So deal with it.
It'll be worth the watch.
The way we have it rigged up, so. Okay. So, this is a little difficult to start because usually we just kind of
We have
go
like
into something.
a list, or we've got
We have a
something.
topic or just a story that someone wants to say,
Yeah.
but now we have nothing.
We have an
And no
agenda.
one.
There's no agenda. So here's what I thought we'd do to start out. Because it's episode 200, there might be people that have just started listening.
Jumped on the bandwagon late.
And so I thought what we'd do is talk about how the podcast got started.
From its humble beginnings.
And kind of our super secret origins. How we kind of, our geek journey, basically, that led us to the podcast and all that thing. And just basically how it all came
Our
about.
whole lives have been leading up to this moment.
Right. So, I guess for me, hi, this is Troy, by the way, if you didn't know.
Hi, Troy.
For me personally, I've been a geek pretty much my whole life.
This really feels like Geek Anonymous kind of thing.
Hi, I'm Troy. I'm a geek. It all started, for me, it started with the original Ninja Turtles cartoon back in the late 80s, early 90s. I would watch that as a kid, and then from that, I'd started watching other superhero type shows like the Batman animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, the Superman animated series, X-Men animated series. And I loved it. I loved that whole universe, that whole, the whole superhero thing. And so from then, I found a couple comic books in my brother's closet that were X-Force.
You didn't find him like under his bed or something?
No. I found other stuff under his bed. No, I'm just kidding.
He's watching right now.
I'm just kidding. He found stuff under mine. So
Comic books.
So I was flipping through this X-Force, and there's Beast in. I was a kid at the time. There was Beast in it. But I didn't see any other of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see Wolverine. I didn't see Colossus. I didn't see anybody. And then I come to realize that they're separate, different books.
Yeah.
And so that started a lifelong obsession with comic books, which has tapered off a little bit over the past few years. But
Don't worry, I picked up where you left off. No.
And from there, springboarded into, a love of sci-fi, fantasy, all this stuff. A love of Star Trek, Star Wars, just anything science fiction or, like I said, fantasy. I just love it. I love the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Well, usually when we have like guests on or people that are like, we'll kind of vet them to make sure that they're geeky enough. So I think that you passed the test.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You can stay on.
I'm glad I can stay on my own podcast that I started. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Actually, Colton and I, we were going to take over.
Mm-hmm.
This was our cunning plan.
I'm being outed.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I'm being pushed out.
We were going to give you like the black spot kind of thing. It's like a mutiny.
This podcast will die without me.
You will rue the day.
You just watch.
And then watch, we get like thousands of people. YouTube takes off. Like, what the heck? Rhett and Link are like smaller than us. We have them on our show.
Actually, speaking of YouTube, you know how we have a lot of videos on our YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I forgot that the podcast was tied to YouTube. Mm-hmm. And so every time we post an episode, it goes to YouTube. So we have about 100-something videos on there currently.
Geez. Yeah. Including our shotgun videos and
Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
So
interviews with celebrities. Check us out. So for myself, personally, I grew up playing video games. Some of my fondest memories were, we're watching my brother actually play video games, and I would just, because I was really good at finding like these different secret chests or like where to go and what to do and like problem solving and puzzling. And yeah, so we played video games like constantly growing up. And then probably watching Beast Wars was one of my first favorite like shows. Batman the animated series, I had to get those and watch them over and over, as well as like Ninja Turtles. But then it kind of, I went more of like the video game direction, and it wasn't until like later that I started reading more and more comic books and graphic novels. But it's weird when I when I read one, like see where Troy he'll wait each week for each episode or each new issue to come out, usually. And then like would collect them. Yeah. Me, I prefer to read the ones that have already like finished up, and they're completed, so I'm not wondering what's going to happen next. I can just No,
you like the volumes.
Binge read them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I prefer my comic books and graphic novels like Netflix.
You're more of a Netflix guy. Troy's a Hulu guy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah. Wow.
You want to bring up Facebook?
Yeah.
Just see if like anybody pops up with like a question or something, just so we're prepared.
Yes.
That makes sense. And then like sci-fi. I mean, I also grew up. I was one of the kids that grew up like reading Harry Potter, fantasy books, Bartimaeus trilogy, like just lots of different books, and then also anime. Anything Miyazaki, I'll watch. I do love those like movies, and not like the ones that are really like whiny, but they actually have a really decent story, and the animation has to be like great for me to even like get into it or care about it. But yeah, that's kind of my direction. Now,
before we get to Colton, the way that AJ and I know each other is we knew each other from middle school.
Yeah.
We were in band class.
Mr.
Together.
Monroe.
Hey.
Troy played the trombone.
I gave it up. He's the one that kept going with it.
Yeah, I started even like a ska band for a while.
Yeah, I played the trombone. He played the trumpet. And
we kicked brass.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we knew each other. I wouldn't say that we were at that time.
We were acquaintances.
Acquaintances, yes. Yeah. I wouldn't call us friends at that time.
Right.
But we knew of each other.
Because three horns don't get along with like long necks.
That's right.
Wow. That's an old reference.
That is an old reference. Yeah. If you get that reference, congratulations. And then what happened is when we actually saw each other again, just like through school and stuff. Then we saw each other again in the MTC.
Yeah.
If you remember. That was weird.
That was like, oh, hey, how are you?
Hey, I know you.
Yeah. And
then I ended up starting a podcast back in 2012, which tanked, which got to about maybe 25, 26 episodes.
Oh, wow, okay.
and that tanked. And then I started up another one.
28 Geeks later?
Yeah, 20 Geeks later was the first.
Okay.
Then I started up Robot with Capes, which was just with a couple of the guys from there. We got to maybe episode 8.
Yeah.
And that tanked. So then I still had the podcasting bug.
Well, it's difficult because a lot of the times, scheduling and whatnot, and if you're not consistent and keep up on it, then, yeah, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I still wanted to do a podcast, and so I was kind of kicking around ideas and things I could do. I still wanted to do a geek podcast.
Yeah.
And so I put it out on Facebook, like, hey, I'm starting up this new podcast. If, anybody wants to join, let me know. So I was working at the theater.
Yeah, you were taking tickets at the time.
And then AJ came in and we started talking and he asked, if I was going to start up the podcast and everything. Yeah. And I said, yep, sure am.
Awkward silence.
Awkward silence. I'm like, oh, hey, do you want to be part of it? After I realized, he's okay. I see what's going on here. And
trying to be all like cool about it, Troy.
Yeah. And so then we started communicating back and forth ideas we wanted to do, direction we wanted to go.
Kind of in that same. It took us a while. I can't remember like how long we sat there trying to brainstorm, come up with like different ideas for the name. Yeah,
the name took
longer than like actually like, hey, you want to do a podcast? All right.
The name probably took a week and a half or something to come up with a good name.
We had like a whole list, a couple of different ones that we'd come up with.
Well, naming something is definitely the hardest part about anything. Like starting a new video game where you have to name your character. Like
yes,
right.
And so we got the name, and we just started off from there.
Which was kind of funny because like our first episodes, because we were using Podbean, and you could only have a 30-minute episode. Well, 2 hours you were allotted for a month.
Yeah.
Right? So then we had to run through these stories as quickly as possible and cut down like so much time. And Troy was editing all the dead air.
Yes.
And
yep.
It was.
So if you go back and listen to those first probably like 20 or so episodes, it sounds like we're on cocaine.
Yeah.
Like particularly me, because I'm just running so quick through these stories. It sounds like we're just taking drugs right before we start.
You weren't?
So, before we get into how Colton came to be.
Came to be, yes. How I was conceived.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That'll be fun. Run through your origin story, basically.
Okay, so this podcast is basically 2.5 Geeks because I'm nowhere near your guys' level.
Man, that's a good name too.
So honestly, I started out life not a geek, and I went through like 14 years of my life as this. I mean, I was nerdy. Like I loved to read, like Harry Potter, all fantasy books, and
closet geek.
And anything with dragons. I was like, oh, this is my jam.
Yeah.
So I would read books, and that was pretty much all that I had in terms of what I did that was, somewhat not cool. I mean, reading is cool, kids. Read.
Reading is cool.
But then, I can't remember exactly what year it is. My brother started playing World of Warcraft, and I would just watch him play, and then I started playing, and this was like 6 months before Burning Crusade came out, and so I eventually I played World of Warcraft from then until now. I canceled my subscription last week, but I started up every few months. It doesn't really matter when I cancel it. But so from there, like I played RuneScape, I played like StarCraft, all those games. And it was really just like MMOs that was the only thing that I did besides reading that was geeky. But I would hang out at my grandparents' house, and my uncles would watch like X-Men and Spider-Man and things like that, and so I would watch those cartoons and I loved them, but I never got to the point to where I read comic books or anything like that. But it makes me happy that they're now doing like the superhero era of movies, because I can kind of catch up on all the stuff that I missed when I was younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically it for me.
Okay. And so then what happened, how Colton ended up on the podcast, is when we started, we we started to kind of incorporate different people
Right.
in. Like first we had Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
He came in for a few weeks. He's off. He's like a manager at Domino's now.
Yeah.
Well, we should go back to the beginning on how it really started.
Okay.
So I started dating Troy's niece, Emily, my
Yes.
now wife, and it was probably like 6 months into our relationship when we got on the subject of podcasts, and she's like, "Oh, my Uncle Troy has a podcast," and I was like, "He does? What's it about?" And she told me, and I was like, "Why have you not told me about this before?" And so I started listening to it, and I started listening like around episode. Like up to current, it was like episode 89.
Yeah.
So it's been 120 episodes since then, or 111. But no, it was 79. Yeah, 79. But then I went back and I started listening from episode 1 to caught up to where I was, and I'll tell you guys, it was hard. It was hard to go back and listen just to the quality of the audio.
I know.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And also, I'm super against drugs, so knowing that you were on cocaine that whole time.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I partially do graphic design at work. That's a lot of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I, just threw together a logo for the podcast, and I sent it over to Troy and was like, "Hey, I just threw this together. I thought you might like it." And he did, and so they started using that. And then I guess that's probably when you found out that I was into geeky stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
That, and also I feel like you were one of our bigger fans.
Yeah.
You're, like actually pretty active on social media with like participation. Now Troy has taken up Joel has taken up the mantle.
Yeah. Joel and Nate.
Yeah.
Well, currently, mostly Joel. But yeah.
Nate, step up your game.
Yeah. And so because of that, because of your constant participation, I thought, well, might as well bring them on board, because we were thinking, like, at the time, like, maybe we should get somebody else on. Maybe we should, we were thinking about maybe changing up things a little bit.
We needed a comic relief.
Well, and what happened too was I think you went out of town suddenly, and then Troy still wanted to record.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Hey, do you want to come on just for an episode to fill in for
That's what
AJ?"
it was. Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Sure." And so we did that, and it was rough because it was my very first time ever recording myself talk.
Troy eased you into the process, though, I'm sure.
By throwing you in the deep end.
Yeah.
Sink or swim, baby. That's how I do it.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, Troy, or not, but it was kind of funny because we were kind of talking about this and throwing around the idea of bringing on somebody else.
Yeah.
And you'd suggested Colton, and then you were kind of tentative for a little bit, but that was just because you were thinking, well, what if he sees behind the curtain,
Right.
doesn't much care for this, or once it's,
Will he still be a fan?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of funny so you stuck around.
Mm-hmm. I saw how the sausage was made, and I still eat sausage.
Still eat the sausage.
I'm not gonna.
All right.
I retract that statement. Strike that from the record.
Pull it back out.
So yeah, then he just kind of came on full time, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's how we've been together ever since.
Oh, man.
Good times. And that was like around episode 120 or so.
Was it?
Yeah, it was
Not
pretty
long.
early.
Oh. All right.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Well, I think that was when I started coming on like every other week.
Sporadically,
Because there was a
yeah.
time that it was just, every now and then.
All right. Yeah. So there's pretty much the origin of the podcast. And again, if you want to hear that origin, you can go back and listen to all the episodes if you really want to.
Yeah.
I personally would suggest listening from about episode 50 on.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
I think that's about when we started to get our stride. Definitely episode 100 on, I think. So I have a few questions that people have sent in. And for those 2 of you that are currently watching,
I think my wife is included in that.
Emily and somebody else.
I can't tell. How do you tell who's watching?
I don't know.
Click on the eyes.
What did it say?
Oh, I think I'm included in that.
Oh, so it's just Emily.
It's just Emily.
Great. So, well, Emily, if you have a question, feel free to type it in.
I'm going to start watching, so we have 3.
So we have 3.
Get the buzz started.
And if you want to share it on your feed or whatever.
Yes.
That'd be cool too. So yeah, we have a couple questions. We have a Twitter question. This comes from @FleetAdmiralUFP. Now, he is somebody that came over from Cosmic Potato. Oh, I should talk about that. Before we get to that, how we kind of ended up linking up with Sean and Cosmic Potato. So what happened was, I started joining podcast groups.
Yeah.
And one of the people that was in one of those groups was Sean Ray, and he had put out a question. He said, "Hey, I'm going to start up this new Star Trek podcast, just talking about people about their love of Star Trek, and I need a good name." And so I started throwing out names, really ridiculous names.
Yeah.
I think one of mine was like Talking with Tribbles or Talk Me Up Scotty or something like that. Or, I don't know, really, really ridiculous things. None of which he took. But he found out that I was a Star Trek fan, and so he had me on his podcast, that podcast, episode 2. I don't remember the name of the podcast. Sorry, Sean, I don't remember what it was called. He still does it. I can't remember. Just blanking. So I came on that, and then knowing that I was kind of a nerd, kind of a geek, he had started his Cosmic Potato podcast, where they basically the sister show of us, basically do the same thing. And so he would have me on, like we did with you. Mm-hmm. He had me on occasionally, sporadically. And then I kind of came on more and more, and then we kind of became friends. I became friends with him. I became friends with John Irons and all the other guys that are over there. And so we just started being on each other's podcasts. And then when Sean started up an actual podcast network, I think we were the first ones, besides his shows, that he asked to come on board. Now he has a few shows on there, but we were the first. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yes.
Hey, now we're up to 4.
Nice.
I went ahead and shared it.
I did too.
Oh, nice. Okay. So that's how we got hooked up with those guys. And so this Fleet Admiral comes from that side. And he says, listening to episode number 189, and I'm fascinated to know the story behind your eagerness, quote unquote, to see Brandon Routh at FanX. I'm new to the podcast. I don't know the history. So,
go for it, Troy.
At Fleet Admiral UFP.
Yeah.
Here's the story with Brandon Routh. So when FanX comes around, we've been lucky enough to do press.
Right.
A few times for them. And when we first started, and it hasn't improved much, but when we first started, we had this little tiny camera. It's actually that one right there. Let me grab it.
Yeah.
So it's actually, and if you guys are watching live, it's this one right here. Little tiny thing.
Yeah.
And so if you have somebody come up with this and ask you if they could take questions, it's not extremely impressive. And so when we would go up to celebrities and ask if we could ask them questions, a lot of times we would get no.
Like, I think not right now. Like, because they have a handler. They have a handler.
Yeah,
that,
or no, thank you.
Yeah, they have a handler that will typically. You have to talk to them. You can't talk directly to the celebrity. Heaven forbid.
Yeah, heaven forbid. Talk to the important celebrity. And so there's a few people that are on our quote unquote blacklist that have turned us down. Nikolai Kostler-Wadlow from Game of Thrones, he turned us down.
Yeah, go sleep with your sister.
Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid, he turned us down.
Right?
More recently, the Green Twi'lek from Return of the Jedi, she turned us down.
Right? In a British accent. Which is
even worse.
Yeah.
Just makes the insult that much worse. And so the reason that we always talk about Brandon Routh is because he gave us an interview, kind of.
Yeah.
But you could tell he really didn't want to do it.
And he really didn't, he didn't care for it at all.
He was completely checked out of the interview. He was doing that thing on the table, you kind of tap your fingers, where you're just waiting for
it to be over.
Mm-hmm. And we actually filmed it, but that footage has since been destroyed.
We burned it.
Which is hard to do for a digital copy. Because it was a terrible interview, so... Anyway, so when we talk about Fan X and bringing up celebrities, we always talk about him, and that's why. It's like, I would rather have a celebrity just flat out tell us no.
Yeah.
Than say yes, and it'd be completely just...
insincere and...
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Which is another reason that I always love talking to the voice actors.
Same here.
Because 9 out of 10 times, and I'm not exaggerating, 9 out of 10 times, they will always say yes.
And they're just happy that they have fans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're appreciative, and they'll go above and beyond. Like, we've taken pictures with them.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, got to talk and get to know them. And I'm pretty sure because, especially Ron Paul, since we've seen him so many times, like, he remembers us.
You mean Rob Paulson?
Or Rob Paulson, excuse me.
Say Ron Paul's a politician, I think.
No.
Yes. And yeah, that's one of the main reasons that I like voice actors so much. Because if you've gone back and heard our interviews with these celebrities, more than 80% is with the voice actors.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're more than happy to talk to you. So, I got a few other questions here. These actually come from Garrett Bracken.
Which hopefully he's, skipping church and watching us.
Skipping church to watch, yep. I'm sure he'll watch later if he's not. He actually has 4 separate questions. The first one is, and we'll just kind of go through these one by one. What else are you interested in besides geek stuff?
I like to golf, play football, go hiking.
Right? I think sports in general.
Yeah.
Which typically, it's not really a...
They don't go hand in hand.
No, not usually.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I'll talk to my sister about that. She's into sports too.
Yeah.
And I'll say, look, it's not that different. We're both into big, strong guys that dress up in colorful outfits. It's not...
Just like Troy's just a little differently interested in them.
It's not that far removed, but yeah, anyway.
Or even like watching, people play video games. They're like, well, how can you do that? And then they'll go watch like a sporting event.
Such a waste of time.
Yeah. Or, I have all this knowledge from all superheroes and everything. Like, oh, this character started in this year. And
Brett Favre ran 200 yards, or did threw for 300 yards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yet, those people that are obsessed with football can tell you who won the Super Bowl in, 1987 and who was the quarterback and all that stuff. Okay.
Myself, I'm not into watching sports, like on TV, but I do enjoy playing them. Like I played lacrosse all through junior high and high school. Played flag football occasionally, and then I play softball just recreationally. That's about it. I listen to educational podcasts a lot. That's not really geeky. I just learn a lot from that, and I love how it's made. That's a good show. I watch that a lot on YouTube.
Troy loves his cooking shows.
Yeah. I love reality cooking shows. I love anything that Gordon Ramsay does. I don't know if that's geeky or not. I'm not sure. I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, I'm obsessed with those shows. I will go and watch any sporting event, honestly.
Okay.
I love basketball. I love watching it. I love listening to it.
Even baseball.
Yes, even baseball. I'll watch baseball. Let's see. What else?
It's difficult because
there are not too many things that aren't geeky about me.
Geeky, it kind of like...
There's a lot of things that fall into that category.
Yeah. It's all encompassing as well as it's like such a big part of our lives. You know, it's in every form of media out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, pretty much that's all of my hobbies, except for, you know, what I said about basketball and stuff. All my other hobbies are basically geek related. So,
well, you like drawing. Yeah. Drawing's not necessarily geeky.
Well, what I draw is
Pokemon.
Yeah, I draw, you know, Pokemon as superheroes and that sort of stuff. All right, so there's that. His other question: who are your favorite superhero and villain, or who is your favorite superhero and villain, and why?
I'll answer for Troy.
I don't think you know my favorite. I don't think I know who my favorite villain is.
I know who your favorite superhero is.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah.
Well, I guess for me, my favorite superhero is Superman, which we've talked about at length. Favorite villain though?
Right?
I don't know. I mean, the Joker's up there.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Lex Luthor, Doctor Doom. I can't pick my favorite villain. I don't think I necessarily have a favorite villain, honestly.
Really?
Uh-uh.
Okay,
if I had to pick one, I'd probably say the Joker.
Okay. For myself, okay, Batman, obviously. And then for villain, it's actually Mr. Freeze.
Really?
Yeah, he's a really empathetic character. You know, he had good intentions to save his wife and to help her out, and things went wrong. And you know, they shut down his company, so that's why he has like a vendetta and just wants everybody to freeze. And I don't know. I think that would be pretty awesome to get a really good origin story comic book or something made of him.
Well, because they might have, because they made a really good origin on the Batman animated series.
Yeah,
Heart of Ice.
That's like one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah. So they might have done a comic book adaptation, but
my favorite superhero is probably the Green Arrow, because I'm really into archery myself, and I think it's cool that he's a superhero without actually having any powers. My favorite villain is probably Thanos, because I definitely see where he's coming from.
Yes.
And I'm not sure he did anything wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You know, the more you start thinking about that movie, you're like, well,
Thanos wasn't that bad. Hitler wasn't that bad.
Aw, snap.
I mean, if I was one of the ones to survive, you know,
I'd be like, sweet. That's like
made the cut.
It's like,
made the team.
Okay. So next one. Was there something that turned you into a geek?
Yes, I was bit by a radioactive
that's what I was going to say.
Really?
Dang it.
Yes.
I think I mentioned it briefly, but for me it was Ninja Turtles.
That was your gateway drug?
That was my gateway drug into the geek world. Yeah.
Mine was probably Lord of the Rings, actually. The movies, not the books.
That was a lot of people, the movies when the movies came out.
I'm trying to... It might have been Batman the Animated Series is when I really like... This is what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this last one for me. Let's hear about the night in jail.
Woo-hoo! Yes.
I've had several requests to hear the story of how I ended up spending a night in jail.
Okay, so first of all, how many people know the actual story?
Not many. My wife, obviously. My mom.
Because she's the one that bailed them out. No, just kidding.
She's one of the people that bailed me out, yes.
Because bail is expensive, guys.
Yeah. It's expensive.
And you only get it back if they actually show up to court.
Those are the only two that know the entire story. I think there are even some members of my family don't even know or realize that I
were in jail.
Spent a night in jail. So this will be fun.
We just got a question from Emily. No.
Okay, so here's what happened. Back in 2010, I was going through let's call it a rough patch in my life. I was having a really bad depression. I was going through a really hard time in my marriage. It was just not a good time for me. And so, one of the other reasons that it was rough, because I was unemployed for about 2 years, which really sucked. And so obviously I didn't have any money. And when you don't have any money and you can't buy anything, that kind of starts to eat at you a little bit. And so what I would do is, because I wasn't employed, I would just kind of walk around and I would find myself at places like Walmart and Hastings, that sort of thing. And they see stuff you want, but you don't have any money.
And it's pocket-sized.
Exactly. And so, to kind of give myself a little bit of a rush, kind of feel something, I started to shoplift little things. And it was nothing too big. I don't remember the first few things it was, but it got progressively bigger. Like all of a sudden I graduated to I was snatching action figures. I was taking movies, CDs, video games. So here's what I would do. Okay. If I was going to take something from Walmart, here's what I would do. I would go through, I would find a register that didn't have anybody in it, and I would grab one of their plastic bags, stuff it in my pocket. And then if I was, walk around, and I would be there for a while, so maybe if they were looking through the cameras, they would start to ignore me. Yeah. At least that's what I was thinking in my mind.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's just browsing, whatever. I don't have to worry about him. And so then when I thought that the coast was clear, I would grab something, or one or two things, pull out the plastic bag out of my pocket, stick it in the bag, and then I would find another register a register that was occupied, so somebody could see that I had the plastic bag, and I would walk through and I would just walk out. Because I had the plastic bag, so I thought, he obviously bought something. And that carried on in that pattern for, sorry, my throat's getting dry, for a few months.
Wow.
It's the lamp that's like...
It's the bright light that hit me. And so that kind of started a pattern.
I'm just wondering why you didn't bring in a bag that was already that you had.
See, if I were to think about it, I probably should have done that.
Yeah.
You're right. But I wasn't exactly a criminal mastermind at this point. Not saying I am now.
Yeah.
But, and so, that I didn't get caught, and I did it for quite some time, probably a good, all in all, 6 months, give or take. I mean, it's taking stuff from Walmart, Hastings, Macy's, just wherever I ended up, found myself.
Oh, you'd have to get a bag from Hastings as well? Or?
No, Hastings, here's the thing with Hastings. Before they changed it, and they're now Entertain Mart, if you remember, you could go grab something like, say, comic book or whatever, and go and sit down in their cafe and sit there and read it.
Right.
Well, there was an exit right close to one of the chairs there in the cafe. So what I would do, I would sit there and I would start flipping through whatever it was I was going to snatch. And then, again, in my thought process, when I thought that, they're starting to ignore me, just think I'm just reading this magazine, I just roll up the magazine, get up and walk out. People thought, I'll probably pay for that. Now, that could have gone on for a while, especially with Hastings. I don't think Hastings was really watching at that point for shoplifters.
It's like high school kids.
Pretty much. And so I pilfered a lot of things from Hastings. I had a stash of stuff. Probably totaling around $300 worth of stuff.
And so I'm just wondering, I don't know, I'm just like asking the questions they're probably thinking. As far as like, how did you kind of explain this without any money? Or you just kind of like hid those things away?
I hid them.
Okay.
And I would occasionally bring out things that I didn't think Jody would particularly notice that was new. Like comic books and stuff like that. Like, I don't think she was keeping tab on what comic books I had and didn't.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that goes on for a while. Then what happens, one day I go back to Walmart, and it was the one in Riverdale, and I go through my whole thing.
Yeah.
And I remember what I had. I had the Die Hard trilogy, of all things. And I didn't follow my plan this time. What I did is actually, I had the DVD and I started just taking off the plastic while I was there. Just kind of, I had it down to my side and I just started picking at it and just I was walking around. Then I opened up the case and, at least I thought, slyly took out the movies, put it in my pocket, put the case back, walked out. Tried to walk out. I was then stopped.
By like one of the Walmart greeters?
By one of the Walmart employees. Not the old people greeters. Just
like,
one
I
of the
could
employees.
dodge them.
And so, so they stop me. They take me back in their little
interrogation room.
You know, quote unquote interrogation room.
Like people are coming in for like, it's their coffee break round kind of thing.
And they're trying to interrogate me, which was laughable, by the way.
Yeah.
Trying to be all tough with me. I was just sitting there like, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have to answer. I don't have to say anything to you. Then they brought in the police officer. Like, all right, I will speak to you.
Yeah.
So I told him everything, went back and got the DVD case and where I left the wrapper, all that, and gave it back to him. Went to the court, went to the judge. Wasn't anything too bad. I think I got like community service. No big deal, really. Well.
So it turns out that the podcast is actually community service.
Well, here's the thing. Shoplifting is a hard habit to break. It becomes a habit. And so after going to court, I started doing it again.
Oh, man.
Yeah. This time I was at Macy's.
Yeah.
And I wanted a drink. So I grabbed a couple cans, soda, stuffed my pockets, walked out, got stopped. So they take me back to their little interrogation room.
In Macy's.
As you're drinking the soda.
In Macy's. And didn't say anything to him. Then they bring in the police officer. This was a bit more scary because he handcuffed me.
Oh, geez.
So that wasn't very fun. Then he eventually, let me go. Had to go back to court. By the way.
Same judge?
Same judge.
Yeah.
But they were in different districts, but same judge. And luckily he didn't remember me, though. Gave me community service again, so I had more community service tacked on the others. And it was around this point where I thought, I don't want to do this. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Again, wasn't the best place in my life. And so I stopped going to community service. And when that happens, the court gets a hold of you and says, you have to come back and talk to us about this. I didn't show up at court.
Oh, wow.
I missed my court date. And for those of you who don't know, if you miss a court date, you get a warrant out for your arrest. And so I knew that was coming. And so I remember the day it happened. I was sitting watching Zombieland.
Okay.
I get a knock on the door. I'm like, my face just goes white. I'm like, oh crap. So I pause the movie. I go out. I peek out the blinds. I don't see any cars. I go out. I kind of peek through the little peephole. See this guy standing there. This Mexican dude. Not exactly out of the norm for around here. So I open the door. He goes, he has a little clipboard. He goes, "Are you Troy Wood?" I said, "Yeah." Pulls out a badge. It's what's he called?
Bounty hunter?
Not a bounty hunter.
Marshall?
Marshal. He's a U.S. Marshal.
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh, pretty much I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
And so he allows me to make a call before he hauls me off. I don't call Joni. I call my mom. And I say, well, I'm being arrested. And the bail said it's such and such amount. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I said, yeah, I'm going to jail. And so I went to jail. You know, the whole thing, I was handcuffed in his back of his car. No, I was in the front. I was in the front seat of his car.
Well, that's thoughtful of him.
Yeah. Wasn't that nice of him?
Handcuffed
That's when
like
you
in
turn
front?
your headbutt butt him and you run.
No, it's funny. I actually remember him telling me, he's like, you don't look like the kind of people I usually arrest. Like, well,
Thank
know.
you, I guess.
Thanks. So, so we get to the jailhouse. I get processed. They take my picture, take my mugshot. It might still be online if you want to look. I don't know.
I've seen it.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked it up.
It's still online. And I end up spending about 17 hours in jail before my family
Was
gets
it just
to know
in
I
like
post
kind
my
of the
bomb.
waiting room jail area?
Well, first,
Like the-
see,
like
here's
the drunk
how
tank
here's
kind
how
of-
it works.
Yeah.
When you get there, they do put you in a little holding cell with all the other people that they happen to arrest at the time. So I was in there probably, I don't know, an hour and a half, something like that, before they called my name. I came out. That's when they take your fingerprints. That's when they take your picture. That's when they strip search you. That was fun.
Strip shirt search?
Yep, strip search.
Oh, jeez.
The whole bend over and spread them. So they did that. I got my little jumpsuit, and they took me off to my cell
Oh, jeez.
in the Ogden jailhouse. Coincidentally enough, I was with another guy named Troy, by the way.
Oh, awesome.
So we immediately bonded on that. I had a friend on the inside. Had someone to watch my back. No, but here's the thing, though. Jail is not at all what you think, like what prison is.
Right.
Prison, completely different thing.
Oh,
Jail
yeah.
is just people basically winding down the clock of their 2-week, 2-month, 6-month sentence, whatever it is. So there's not like hardened criminals or anything in there. So more than anything, it was boring.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really boring.
Just kind of waiting. They didn't give you a comic book or anything?
I was supposed, if I didn't post bail, I was going to be in there for about 2 weeks. Which at the time I thought, I don't think I can be in there here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
This sucks. Like, I understood how people can get really in shape, anything when they're in jail or prison, because that's the only thing there is to do.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
what I started doing,
work
just to keep myself busy. I started doing like sit-ups and stuff and push-ups because that was all there was to do.
Did you get a tattoo?
No.
Couple of teardrops.
No. So yeah. So I spent one night in jail. Next day I got bailed out, and yeah.
Oh.
So there's my whole crazy story about how I ended up in jail.
Like it. It didn't disappoint.
By the way, jail food not that great.
Really?
Just saying.
I've heard.
Yeah, it's not that good. So there's that. Okay. We do have a couple other questions. Both of these are from Joel. He called our number at 385-240-1692 and left a message. I'll play them. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear these, but I'll play them. So here's the first one.
Hey guys, I got a question for your big question
Did you find it?
extravaganza.
Yeah, there it is.
Just pretty simply,
Rough. You got it.
What was your most embarrassing moment? Growing up? Whatever. Something that just haunts you to this day when you think about it, just gives you the deep down pit lump in your stomach, throat thing. Yeah. Go for it. Thanks.
So if you couldn't hear that, he asked, that was Joel. He asked, what is our most embarrassing moment?
And for Troy and I, we were able to think of it within a couple of seconds.
Real quick.
Right? Colton, on the other hand.
It took me a while because I guess I have some repressed memories.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start there. Why don't you go first?
All right. When I was in, let me think about what grade this was in. I think it was 6th grade. I had read the Aragon book, which I'm sure you guys have read.
Yeah.
The Inheritance Cycle. And I really loved it, and I got all my friends in my class to read it, and the sequel wasn't in the school library. So we petitioned for our teacher to talk to the school and see what they could do to see if they could get it in.
Mm-hmm.
What she ended up doing is she got us to sign a pledge saying that we would read this book if she personally bought one for each of us.
Oh.
And so she bought, I think it was like 10 kids, a $20 book, which was super awesome for her as a teacher. And so that first day that we did it, well, the rules for this is as soon as we were done, we were supposed to donate them to the school library. And I think the school reimbursed her for that. So she had us do a signed reading where we would all sit around in a circle in groups of like 3 or something, and we would read these books. Just so that she made sure that we were getting through them and actually reading them like we said we were going to. Well, the door to our classroom was in this little, the door was here, and there was a wall here and a wall here, and then the classroom opened up. Mm-hmm. And my 3 people in the group were right behind the door, so we were trapped in this little alcove. So what happened is, I had a friend named Andrew who was sitting in my group, and then this girl that I had a crush on was also in the group, and so it was just us 3, and we were sitting there, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I have kind of chronic flatulence, and I have a hard time keeping toots in.
Didn't know that.
And we were sitting there, and we were reading, and I just let it rip, and it was loud. And it smelled, and they were nice enough to not get up and run away, but then they had to sit there through the stinkiness.
Sit there through the stink.
And and it was pretty embarrassing having a girl that you have a crush on just sit there and make a face and try not to be rude by running away from you and your stink.
All right.
Oh, that's pretty good. For myself, it was also in, I think, middle school. We were playing flag football, and we had been separated into 2 teams as boys and girls. We were all mixed together, and I remember they finally threw me the ball, and I was running, and I was running as fast as I possibly could, and I was a pudgy little kid, and this other kid was catching up to me, and he ran and he kind of jumped and dove at me, but the flags are placed either on your hips and then there's one on your back. Mm-hmm. So I was wearing basketball shorts, and he happened to grab the back of my pants and kind of pull them down, and I mooned my entire class. Yeah. And nice. I fell down, face in the dirt, and my ass is up to the world. So yeah, I tried to repress that movie. I've never told anybody this at all. I tried to repress it and just so there you go.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
That's funny. I actually have 2 incidents just like those 2, as a matter of fact.
But that's not the most embarrassing.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to tell my elementary school fart story.
Sorry, I stole that.
Then you had a mooning one.
At a time I got pantsed on the slide, but there is...
How does that even happen?
When you're hanging on the slide and your friend comes down and tries to grab onto you, down they come. Anyway. But one of my most embarrassing moments, and it was just really embarrassing for me internally. I don't think anybody else thought it was embarrassing. So I had a very short stint where I played basketball for church, for my little church group.
Church ball.
There's
a movie about it.
The brawl that begins with prayer.
And I am not generally good at sports at all.
Never could have guessed.
Yeah, how about that? Turns out when you don't practice something all the time, you're not good at it. But I thought, I'll go play it. That's fine. Well, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't good. And so I was never, the ball was never really passed to me. I was good at passing to others.
that was your bread and butter.
That was, yeah. I was good with the assists.
You go for the assists.
Yeah, I was good
playing
at that.
as John Stockton kind of that style.
And there was one time the opposing team went up for the shot, missed it. My team got the ball, tossed it to me, and I took off. I ran down, I go up, and I make a layup. And I thought, I did it. I actually made a point. This is so exciting. This is awesome. I turn around. Both teams never crossed half court. They were instructed not to. To help me get a point.
What?
Yeah.
It's like when there's that, like, child with a disease and he's
Yes!
like honorary on the football team
Yes!
and they make sure that no one tackles him as he goes to make a touchdown.
They were treating me like a Make-A-Wish kid. I mean, I turn around. I'm so proud of myself. I turn around and I'm alone on that side of the court.
Do you think you would have made the layup had they interfered?
I don't know. I will never
the sad
know.
part.
He's like, wow.
I was so humiliated.
Here, Troy, you win. Here's the crown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's not even embarrassing. That's hilarious. You need to tout that story proudly.
Yeah.
That was the last time I ever played church ball. That was my last game. I never went back.
Would have been funnier if you did the layup and you're like, yeah!
Turn around. How you like them apples?
They couldn't believe it.
You should have just went with it and just were like showboating, doing the moonwalk. And
God, I feel, what's up? What's up? It's like, oh, this poor kid doesn't get it.
That's also the day Troy cured cancer.
Yeah, it was.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
It's funny now.
For us, at least.
Awful then. So,
how old were you at this point?
13, 14, around there. Yeah.
Prime age for emotional scars.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So we have another question from Joel. Again, don't know if you're going to hear this, but here we go.
Hey guys, got another question for you. It's Joel. Every time when you guys end, you guys have a little thing where you go, you can email us anytime, and then AJ hops in.
Even when he said that, I was thinking in my head.
I'm curious how that started. Was it something you sat down and planned, like, hey, AJ, you need to say something, or were you stammering and he jumped in and saved you, or?
Yep, he was stammering.
Yeah, just the origin stories of that.
It's okay, Troy. It's okay.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Well, you tell your story, how you remember that starting.
Typically, whenever we do like the ads for the show, we'll go back and forth and kind of plan it and rehearse it a couple of times and then go for it. With this, it was kind of just Troy just went for it, and I don't know. I felt like I wanted to like participate or be involved, contribute into it, so it wasn't just like me sitting there, for a minute while he's going through the lineup. So that's really how it was. I just chimed in.
Just jumped in. Yeah. And that's how I remember it too. It was way, way back. Right first few episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just said you can email us and you just jumped right in.
Yeah.
Or I said you email us anytime and you jumped right in day or night. And then so the next episode, because we did at that time like 3 episodes in a row. And so next time I waited for you, and then waited again, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And
Yeah. Although, have we
how
ever
it came
gotten
to
an
be.
email? Maybe like one or two?
No. Not directly to us. I mean,
Not even night or during the day?
Nope.
Oh.
It's like notifications for like our social media and stuff. That's
Right.
the only emails we get.
Oh, man.
Although there are sexy singles in our area that are interested in meeting
Within
us.
2 miles.
Yeah. But yeah, that's and I don't think in 4 years we've gotten an email
Yeah.
of anybody asking us anything or that sort of thing. So, okay. Let's see where we're at for time here. Hey, we hit an hour.
What?
Good job, guys.
So proud of us.
High fives all around.
That was a
Yeah.
bad one. Let's read that.
There you go.
Look at us. We can actually talk for an hour without any topic, really. Okay. So I do have a couple other talking points here. Before we get to that, you had a friend that had a question. So I'll let you set that up.
Summer, I've been playing with her for years on video games. I have to carry her the majority of the time because she's all right at playing. She's gonna give me so much crap for that, because she's actually way good. And she's over in Toronto, up in Canada, our neighbors to the north. And I'd asked some of my friends that I play online with. I was just like, "Hey, any of you guys got any questions?" So then she just sent me a message on Facebook and said "Hey, I have this question. Do you think?" And she's like, "This is a burning question that I've had for years, kind of burning in her loins, basically, you could say." Colossus, do you think that he has metal genitalia? Or is it just kind of more like an action figure?
Okay. So obviously when he's in his human form, he obviously does.
Right.
So she's wondering when he transforms into his metal form.
Correct.
If he still has the genitals or if he's like a Ken doll.
Yeah.
I personally, I would think that, yes, he still does have genitals.
Because otherwise, where would they go?
Where would they go?
Up into him?
Or
hey,
just like
maybe it was a cold
a
night
metal,
that he was
metal
playing crime.
jock that covers it?
Yeah, metal plate that comes down. No, I mean, if you look at him, his eyes turn metal, his fingers turn metal, his nipples turn metal.
Right.
Everything turns metal, so it would stand to reason that his
I think we're all on the same page here.
His junk turns metal too.
Okay, but then is it still... is it as mobile and as tender?
Can it still function, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, because tender? No.
Are his body fluids metal?
I don't
Do they come out as like mercury?
I don't think so. I think it's just the skin.
I think his insides are, though. Like his guts and everything.
I've always heard it was just
the skin.
The skin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But no, I don't think they're tender because, again, his hair, his eyes, that stuff turns
you
metal.
punch it and you're not going to phase him.
And yeah, he doesn't, never, yeah.
But as far as being able to move around,
I think because it's organic metal.
Right.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
It's not metal, it's organic metal. So I would assume that it can still function.
Does it chink, you think, when he walks? Like ding, 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 ding.
I think his costume holds it in place.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Man, that would be uncomfortable.
So it's not like those swinging balls on your desk at work.
Magneto could do some damage to Colossus.
Right?
Hey, bud.
So there's that one. So I want to ask you guys, what is some of your favorite moments from the podcast? Whether that's certain episodes or whether that's stuff we've done together as a group or whatever. Some of your favorite moments.
I have a new favorite moment. A new one.
Is
Your,
it me
your
telling-
basketball story.
Yeah, telling that story? Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. I just love when we get really good organic laughs like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you can laugh at my pain.
Yeah, good.
For me personally, I really did like it when we did our worldwide local tour.
Oh, yeah.
I also love it when we do our March Movie Madness in April. I feel like we get so much participation and like people just kind of like thrive off of that. It really does feel almost like a geeky March Madness.
Yeah.
As far as like episodes go, I did like our fancy mics. Those are like the little using our little cheap ghetto what was it? Guitar Hero
mics. Yeah.
Yep. Or just kind of like banter, playing off of each other and just joking. It's more of like the times when we just don't really have a set agenda, or like we always go off on these random tangents. Those are like some of my favorite things, because that's the majority of the time is where we get the name of the episode. Is
true.
From those things.
Yep. For me, it's we've been able the press that we've been able to do.
Oh yeah.
We've been able to go to Comic-Con, and we've been able to not only meet, for me personally, some of my heroes, but talk to them and interview them.
And to find out that they're actually cool.
Yeah.
Most people that meet their heroes, like, doesn't go so well.
Yeah. So for me, it's been that stuff. I don't, as far as episodes go, I can't really think of any particular episode. I'll probably remember this one.
Yeah.
In the future. But yeah. So let's see here.
Any for you yourself, Colton?
No, I don't know. I like getting together with you guys every week. It's fun. It's nice to get away from the wife. Just kidding. No, it's a good change of pace.
It is.
Well, it's also a way for us to kind of, because we're thinking about it throughout the week, sending each other stories, going to movies, doing stuff in anticipation for Sunday, when we can get together and talk about it with like-minded people.
Oh, who was that, Joel?
It was John.
Oh, John. Oh, hey, John. John Irons is watching. So just turning in. Congratulations on 200, guys.
Sweet. Thanks,
Thank you. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. Also, something that I really like about the podcast is I think we all bring different points of view to things. We're all extremely different people.
Yeah.
So I think that works well.
Different backgrounds, upbringings.
Because I think if we were all the same and we were all, had all the same opinions on things, obviously that would be boring. So I think it works well.
It's like, I watched this thing, and these are the reasons why I like it. And then we're like, I concur.
Yeah, me too.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's not interesting. So I think that one thing that works really well.
Some of our lively debates are pretty fun as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't get into that.
Deadpool, ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the big topics.
Those are the hot buttons that we just occasionally throw in.
I do want to ask you though.
Yeah.
So we talked about we've talked about ghosts before, and how I do not believe in them at all.
Right.
And you brought up a Ouija board. So I found this was coincidence. This was sheer coincidence. It popped up on my feed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not extremely coincidental now I'm thinking about it.
Big Brother is watching.
Yeah, my phone heard me. But it popped up the science of Ouija boards, and I sent that to you.
Yeah.
So did you read the article first
I did.
off? Okay.
Yeah.
So now, what are your feelings now towards the Ouija board? Have they changed?
I mean, more so, I don't really think of it as like a way to channel, but it almost comes across as like just inviting bad mojo your direction. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of asking for it.
Well, and for me, I think that's because that bad mojo, as you called it, has been put on that over the years. Like when it started out, that wasn't what it was.
Right.
But over the years, people that don't understand how it works kind of got freaked out about it and think that it's spirits and that sort of thing. And so I think it does have a bad aura around it, a negative aura around it. So I get that. I can understand that.
And see, I'm more apt to believe, or I want to believe, that there is actually still ghosts, and I don't know, because like I love Halloween so much, and I love like horror movies, and I mean, it's probably all just in my head because, you know, of all the other stuff and movies and stuff I've watched, but I don't know. I'm more open to believe that there's something there.
Okay. Should we bring this up? What do you think?
What's that?
Lunar landing.
Moon landing? Should we
Yeah,
bring it
go
up? Okay. Okay. One of the biggest revelations that I found out a couple weeks back is that AJ, you question whether or not we landed on the moon.
Yeah. And I have watched the Mythbusters episode on it. Well,
you have? Okay.
Well, a lot of it, because I found it on YouTube, because they don't have it on Hulu or Netflix or anything else. And I was able to find the majority of it, because they broke it down into segments on each talking point that they did. So I saw a couple of them, but I'm not sure if they did one on like the crosshairs. But that's one of the things that kind of like throws me off, is because, you know, you see the camera, and then you'll see these crosshairs, but they bleed into it, or they're behind, you know, they bleed into the shot to where they should actually. Have you seen those at all?
I'm trying to, because I've done a little research too on what, you know, because I want to get the other side of it.
Yeah.
Why people may not believe that this happened. And I'm trying to think if I came across that. That might have been hair, was it hair? No, obviously not hair, but something like got on the screen or on the lens, or I don't remember exactly.
Oh no, there's certain ones, like take a look at this guy here. Yeah. It's black, and then all of a sudden it goes behind like the different objects, and you can go through the different images. There's quite a few of them there, but that kind of makes me question it. I mean, I don't know how that is, and it could be something with the camera. The other thing that like really gets to me is, okay, so during this time, the U.S. and the Soviets are going back and forth.
Yeah.
Right? They're in a competition. They get one, the Soviets were pulling ahead because they actually had a guy go up into the atmosphere and kind of make his way, around the Earth. Mm-hmm. So we're going back and forth. It's neck and neck for years. And then all of a sudden, the U.S. is is there. And then what makes it even weirder for me is the Soviets stopped. Why didn't they send somebody to the moon as well?
I think they did.
No, there's never been like a Soviet that's landed on the moon.
It's just the U.S.
The U.S. So, I'm like, well, if you're that close and you've got all this technology and you've invested years, I get that it could be just a pride thing that you're just like, well, we weren't the first, so like, screw it. But at the same time, it's just like, why didn't they at least like go up there and like break the American flag or do, you know what I mean? Or like go up there themselves?
Okay. Okay. Let me unpack this. So the first thing with the crosshairs.
Yeah.
That was of 1960s technology.
Right.
Right. And those cameras had been through space, all that stuff. They were in this pressurized capsule, that sort of thing. So it is possible that because of that technology, that it was just a trick of the not trick, but it was just what happened to the camera,
right?
Because you'll see. Even today, there'll be video of people that look like they walk through things or disappear, but they're not actually disappearing. That's just how the camera is viewing it has to do with lighting and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe that's what could be causing those crosshairs to pass through things.
Right. And I get, like, because, I've looked into the other ones as far as, like, because some people will say and speculate that there's different angles as far as, like, the shadows is casting different directions. And that's just, like, more the way that the dust is, and on Mythbusters they broke it down to where you can actually refract it and put it different directions. Yeah, and it's just the dust, how it's settled and piles and
Now, as far as why did the Soviets just stop?
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know they've gone to space many times. Why they never went to the moon, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they
It just seems
couldn't
so
figure
odd that
it
they're
out,
going
or
back
maybe
and forth.
I don't know.
I
can't answer.
My only theory is the U.S. has always been like, all in. We're just going to do it, see if it works.
Yeah.
So they went for it and they landed on the moon. But if you catch me on the right day, I'm more apt to believe that there was some. I don't know. It seems kind of crazy that it was all of a sudden, we hadn't sent anybody that far into the atmosphere, and then all of a sudden we're at the moon.
But they do have, there are telescopes that are powerful enough to look at the moon, get very close, and you can see that space capsule on the surface of the moon. It is still there.
Is
Yes.
it?
Yes. It is still
I
there.
want to see that. I don't know. I would put my mind at ease.
All right. Well, if you get some time, you can check it out. But okay, let's see. That's pretty much
it in a nutshell.
Pretty much all I have. Let's see. Got through all the questions. I had a few other talking points, but I don't think they're that important. Honestly.
What more proof do you need, AJ?
What was that?
I said, what more proof do you need, AJ?
Just kidding. But do you believe that we have made it, sent those robots to Mars?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just checking.
Yeah. Another revelation reveal. Episode 200.
Which that is really cool, by the way. If you don't know, NASA just put a little machine, Explorer rover, I guess, on Mars. It just landed just like within the last couple of weeks. And it's been sending back pictures and that sort of stuff. And it's really cool to me how we can look at another surface of a planet on our phones.
Right?
I think that just kind of blows my mind.
The future is now.
We can literally see the surface of Mars, and we can do a 360-degree turn and see the surface of Mars on our phone. That's crazy to me. Okay. You guys did find my mugshot, by the way.
Should we share it on the page?
Should we?
If you want to.
We can share it.
Okay.
If you can pull it off of there, we can share it.
Yeah, I did already.
All right. Okay.
I didn't share it, but I did pull it off.
All right. She's going to post it anyway. No, I don't care. You can post it. That's fine. Oh, man. I look horrible.
It's just because you don't have any facial hair.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a bald Troy.
Bald-faced Troy.
He does look like that. Does look like the face of a serial killer, and it's weird. Like, look, he, whatever direction you go, his eyes follow you.
Yeah, that was a bad day. Okay. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up? Anything else you want to talk about?
No. Thanks for listening.
And watching.
Emily.
Yeah. And John. For a minute.
Me and AJ.
And you guys.
Oh, Michael was there as well.
Okay. Well, then, you can find all of our episodes at worldwarg.podbean.com. You guys can see I have my little cheat sheet right there. You can also find us on iTunes and the Google Play Store. Just search World War G. We're also at cosmicpotato.com. You can find us on the social media at facebook.com/worldwargpodcast and WWG2. We were also on Twitter and Instagram. Just search at WWG Podcast, though honestly we don't do much with those. But you can follow us if you want. You can find all of our merchandise, all of our shirts. See? AJ's wearing it right there.
Yeah.
All of our shirts and mugs and all that fun stuff at shop.spreadshirt.com/worldwarg. You can also email us anytime,
day or night,
at worldwgpodcast@gmail.com. Also remember, you can call or text the show at any time at 385-240-1692. Just leave a message or send us a text. So, this has been World War G episode 200. That is AJ.
That is Troy.
And I'm Colton.
And you are the listener, and you are the watcher. Hey, how about that?
Computer is the listener.
Stay geeky, my friends.